up? Welcome to Fairway to Heaven. It's a LIV Golf podcast with myself, Sue and Heng, and Jerry Foltz, my partner in crime. We are both part of the regular broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Jerry, what's up? What's been happening, dude?
Nothing. It's chilly here in Orlando in the 50s today. It didn't even get to 60, so I couldn't do any of my yard work or mowing the lawn or those things I enjoy. And hell of a lot of nothing, actually. And I can't drink right now because this medication I'm on. Karen's out of town visiting family for the holidays. So literally, it's me and the dog, who I started to call Wilson because it's the only person or creature I can talk to.
I hear a lot of whinging, man. It's just wah, wah, wah. Too
Listen,
cold.
when you get old, you can complain
Can't
about whatever the
drink.
hell you want. It's just one of those rites of passage. So you
What do you
wait a
mean?
few
I do it
years.
now anyway.
Well, yeah, but you're you. You don't.
Do you like
it's
my
your
mug, by
nature.
the way? This one's for you. It's especially for you.
Oh, that's an Arlo mug. You suck.
Team
Really?
Lasso.
At least it's not Arlo's mug on the mug.
I now call it Ted Arlo, by the way. Every time I watch it now, I just say I'm watching Ted Arlo. Don't you miss him?
Arlo or Lasso?
Yeah.
I miss Lasso. I can't believe they didn't renew it.
No, Arlo.
No, Arlo who?
You know, it's my goal at some point to get him on the show. And I can just sort of just sit back,
Don't we have equal votes
myself-
on our guests?
make myself a nice cocktail and just watch the show, really. It'll
Yeah.
be might be our highest rated one.
With Arlo White?
Arlo White, yes,
No, see,
your
we
friend.
both get-
Remember Arlo?
The guests have to be mutually approved. There is no unilateral approval process here.
Pretty sure our bosses decide who comes on the show.
No, our bosses gave us creative control. That makes us the boss, you see.
You
And
know,
it's
I
obviously
can
working
always
really
kind of
well.
I can get Arlo in without asking you if he can get
No.
in. All I have to do is send him a Zoom link. You realize that?
Yeah.
And our producer Willie Balls is as we call him. He's a huge fan of Arlo, by the way. So and he also
Jesus.
likes the nil-nil sport that you so hate.
That would see you outvoted, Jerry.
Yeah,
so
but first of all,
technically
it's
you're
not a
outvoted.
sport. If you can end in a 0-0 tie, it's not a sport.
Football can end in a 0-0 tie, technically.
Technically. Okay, that happens all the time.
Just saying.
This is where, like, if Arlo was here, this is where everyone would just sit back and watch the show.
No, watching soccer's like prom night, because I mean they start marching down the field and the commentators are all ecstatic about it, and it's like you get all this excitement and then no, nothing. And it's just over and over. It's very much like prom night.
That's your prom night, not everyone else's prom night.
Well,
It's like story of your life, basically. By the way, Willie Balls, we gotta explain how that whole nickname came about. You know, it started with
his
what was
name's
it?
Will.
Third Wheel.
Yeah, and he's the third Will on our email chain for this show, for this pod thingy. And you nicknamed him Third Will, so it made it Third Wheel. And then last name is Balsam. So
And then none of that has anything to do with how you came up with the next nickname.
Willie Balls.
Willie Balls.
But he's named affectionately after one of my favorite people on earth. It's a guy from Maui, older gentleman, very much older. Used to drive my cart at Kapalua every year for the Tournament of Champions, or I think that's what it's still called on the PGA Tour. And he is a legend in Maui. He's got to be coming up on 90 years old now, and everybody knows who Ronnie Balls is. He's just a wide open guy who lives life to the fullest every single day. And so it's a very affectionate term. If you go on Maui and you're around golf, ask somebody if Ronnie Balls is around and they'll smile.
Well, that's perfect
Well-
timing because Talor Gooch is in the waiting room if you guys are ready for him.
Can't wait for him to meet
Balls and
Willie
affection.
Balls.
This is a great way to start my morning. All right.
Here he comes.
Let him in. Tay-Tay.
Hey, better late than never. Sorry.
Hey, listen, you're the superstar. Don't worry about it. Just make everyone else wait for you. It's
Oh
okay.
gosh. Oh gosh.
Are
Here
you
we
in the
go.
gym?
Don't do what?
Are you in a gym right now? You are.
I am, yeah. This is where I spent 5 of the 8 hours filming for Live Studios today. So, I'm just, just a full day of doing work.
Ouch. That looks
Damn,
painful.
five hours of a workout? That sounds awful.
Well, a lot of it was filming me doing a single rep. So, um, you know, at least I
So good.
won't
By the
have
time
I won't have the
by the time you got
excuse
to
that
5 hours,
didn't.
you did
I've done a
basically a full
lot.
set.
Yeah, exactly. I've done a lot, but
How's that?
no, sorry.
How's that smash hat fitting you? That looks pretty sweet.
It's pretty good.
You
That is a
excited
nice
about
hat.
the move?
Yeah, super excited.
Yeah, that's
By the
cool.
way, you gotta give me props. Unlike Jerry, I am a supporter. I'm a team player. I knew I was gonna interview you today, and so I'm in Smash colors.
Hey, you're on brand. I love it.
You know what I'm saying?
Hang
Like
on, Sue-Ann.
Jerry's just a bit of a loser. so
Bullshit. Who adopted? We all picked our teams the very first event in London. Who was the only person who picked Smash back then?
Do you know? Okay, Taylor, just a little background. You know why he picked Smash though? He said it's the closest thing that describes him on a daily basis.
I was going to say the name.
Smash. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Smash.
perfect.
Yeah.
It's
All the
perfect.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, get ready. Get ready for some Smash Gooch gear.
Ooh.
Sweet. So, Taylor, you don't get to be the #1 podcast in all of LIV Golf history without doing your research and going the extra mile. So we enlisted a little help today to find out a little bit of, I actually was looking for dirt and I didn't get any dirt on you, but evidently you're not superstitious, a line from, what was the show? Balls?
The Office. The Office.
The Office,
wasn't it?
okay.
Yeah.
Not superstitious, you're a little stitious. Explain.
Just a little. Like I don't do everything, in my life revolving around my superstitious tendencies. I don't have a ton of superstitious tendencies. I just have a few little tendencies that are stitious. So
Quirky?
yeah, I'm just like what can we do? So like I always mark my golf ball the same. I always mark like on the actual golf ball. I always mark on the greens with a coin from the 60s. Let's see what else do I do. Like I always
you marked
use
405 or something on your golf ball, right?
Yeah, 405. Yeah, it's the area code of
Oklahoma.
where I'm from. Yeah. And you're 918 Oklahoma affiliated. How do you know what 405 is? Look at
Because
you.
when I went to school there was only one.
Oh my gosh, you're old.
Yes,
Wow.
for the whole state.
Oh my gosh. Where Oklahoma was just really, really small back then. Even smaller than it is now.
One big tumbleweed state, yes.
You know how I know what 405 is? Thanks to Pitbull. He always you know how he does all the like, what do you call it? Not country codes, but state codes or whatever.
Yeah. I always tell people I'm the good 405, not the state that doesn't deserve their weather and food and wine and beauty, not that 405. So the 405 that runs north and south through LA, the state highway, so the 405 in California, it's the worst place in the world. You will go 1.5 mile. You'll go 1.5 miles in an hour.
Yeah.
And so anytime I have 405, someone sees a 405, they're like, "Are you talking about the freeway?" And I'm like, "No, that's the most terrible thing in all of the United States. I'm talking about the good 405.
Well, I can think of one other place it's not great. It's the I-4. That's pretty awful. Where Jerry is, he's in Orlando. That's pretty.
It's hell. Yeah, actually, Florida was voted 2 of the worst 5 interstates in the nation. Florida was.
Really?
I-4 being one of them.
Really?
Yeah, 95 being the other. So it's just tragic because, I mean, in the season down here, as you know, Taylor, everybody comes from the north.
Yeah.
It depends how far east they are, whether it be from Canada or the United States. There's like a dividing line where they either come to Florida or they go to Palm Springs or Arizona. And when they get down here, they're usually a little older. Like there's some towns in Florida, retirement towns, where old people go to visit their parents type thing. So
Yeah.
they get in the car and they just kind of aim. They just kind of aim, and they're on the interstate. They just kind of aim. So you have to moderate your way around them. The right lane is usually the fastest on the interstates in Florida, believe it or not.
By the
Hey,
way, you talking about the people in California and how they don't deserve the weather and stuff. That sounded very familiar to me. I think I saw that on your one of your posts on Insta stories when you and your wife Allie were, I believe, on a baby moon. You guys visited California, right?
yeah, it's a great place to visit, not a great place to live. They don't deserve it, but they do pay for it. I always say that at the end of it because it is the most beautiful state. It's one. I mean, if you think about it, that state is one of the most beautiful places in the world. The weather is unmatched in a lot of areas of it. The food there, like the topography, like the beauty of it. They make great wine all throughout it. Like it's one of the best places in the world, but it is filled with a lot of people that don't deserve it.
All right. And what but not a lot of Oklahoma transplants to California, I wouldn't imagine.
Correct.
Where did the love of wine come from? I mean, you didn't grow up as a kid of, huge privilege, and I'm sure when you discovered your first taste of alcohol as an adolescent or older, probably when you were 21.
21, Jerry.
It wasn't a nice Bordeaux or anything. Where did this love of wine come from?
My dad is a big box wine fan, so you are right. No, I didn't grow up drinking fine Bordeaux. So my senior year at Oklahoma State, I was ahead of the ball game for graduating in the last semester. I only needed 2 classes to graduate. And one of the 2 classes that I took was called wine tasting. So I took 2 classes. I took personal finance because I was like, let's do something that's going to be like applicable. Like, I don't know how to like handle finances. I'm 21 years old. Like, I don't know anything about that because our education system's so great. And then 2, I took wine tasting because I was like, you know what? I'm going to do something that like, I'm a golfer. Like, there's a bunch of rich people in golf. Like, and they like wine. So like, well, it'd be nice if I knew how to like handle my own around those people. Little did I know that it would spark a very expensive hobby. It was Thursday nights. It was just in the nights. It was actually the greatest semester of college of all time because the personal finance class was a short class and it was an online class. It was like an 8-week class. And so it was done by like spring break. And then the wine tasting class, it was only Thursday nights and it was supposed to be, 2.5, 3 hours of a night class from like, 5:30 to 8:30 or whatever. And so once the personal finance class was done and finished, I only had 1 class for the last half of that semester, and it was wine tasting. And so Oklahoma State, their HRAD, Hotel Restaurant Administration, their school there is one of the best in the country for that program. And so anything that has to do with hotels or restaurants, there's a class for, and wine tasting was one of them. And the first few weeks of it, we delved into like the wine making process, right? Of like when the fruit is to be picked, and how do you turn grapes into how do grapes ferment and turn into alcohol, and the sugar levels, and how do you barrel, and what do you barrel, and what do you age in stainless steel, and then what do you barrel in oak, and all of the parts of the winemaking process we learned the first few weeks, and it like captivated me. I was like, this isn't just like you just pour grape juice into this box wine of Franzia and it just turns into 12% alcohol and you drink it. Like this is an art. After the first few weeks of it, the rest of the year, essentially we would show up to class and there'd be a couple different wines that we were tasting that night. And we had a Frenchman that was the professor that, we would literally just like try the wine and talk about it. And I was like, oh my gosh, that does taste like blueberry. Oh my gosh, that does taste like dark chocolate. Like, and it just started to like open my mind to this whole new world. And like I said, little did I know that class that I thought was going to be just a nice little added skill became a very expensive hobby.
By the way, you gotta love America. You know, you go to fucking university and you go and make wine as a class. Like, I'm sorry, but where I'm from, that ain't happening. You know, like it's not.
Hey,
that's not normal, and there's nothing normal about what you just said. Like,
I took beginning golf class 4 straight semesters at University of Arizona for the credit. So I'm just curious, who else was in the class, Talor?
I have run across a lot of people that have taken that class at Oklahoma State, but maybe the best part of the class at that point in time was, and I hope my college coach at the time doesn't hear this, because he'll just probably come and like give me a little, whooping real quick. But so we always had Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 6 a.m. workouts. AKA don't go out during the weekdays because you got 6 a.m. workouts. And so Fridays of that semester, we had like a hot yoga class. And so 6 a.m., we're going into a hot, and for anyone that's taking hot yoga, like it's not just warm, like it's hot. But of course, being, this little 21-year-old kid, I was like, oh, this is great. I get Thursday nights, I get to get my free little, start to the night in wine tasting. And then Eskimo Joe's and a few other places had some Thursday night specials that I could, I could make a $10 or $15 night go a long ways after getting a nice little Thursday night base in class. Yes. And then I would wake up Friday and I would rid myself of the toxins in hot yoga. And then I didn't have class, so I could go get a nap before getting out to the golf course. So it was, I'm telling you, there's been few people who have had a better semester of college than I did when I was taking wine tasting and just living it.
Hey, it sounds like fun. The part you're talking about, you can taste the blueberry and the vanilla. I mean, Jerry and I talk about this all the time. We read magazines on the plane just because we fly so much, and I fly probably. Dom and I think, do the most miles on our team.
No question, yeah.
So we get bored and we read all that bullshit that's on the plane, and there's this part where I think, Jerry, it was you, right? You read this whole thing about wine, and people are like, oh, you can smell the tobacco.
Wines of Spain, the wines of the region we were in Spain, the red wines were phenomenal. There was so much. Yeah, exactly. See, we got our Sauvignon with us, but the flavors, they were so pronounced. The different spices and flavors were so pronounced. And I'm not a wine guy. I did take when I was a waiter at a high-end restaurant in Tucson back when I was trying to make a living, I had to take a wine class to learn the wines and also the distilled spirits as well. And that might have paralleled Talor's semester in college, because that was just pure fun learning about them. But I know just enough to be dangerous, but I don't drink wine. I like beer and
but really though, can you smell tobacco? Can you taste tobacco? Like and then they start talking about tasting hints of, what's the one that's like super out there? Like hint of,
I mean, black currant, red licorice, like there's all kinds. I mean,
those I get because you can like taste, you taste
graphite and tea leaves, and there's all kind of weird stuff. Yeah.
Right. How do you taste graphite?
I mean, when you taste it, you'll know it, by the way. But it's, I've learned I have a couple buddies that are like gifted at like their palate. They're just gifted. Like they can smell and taste it, and they'll just tell you exactly what it is. I'm more of a learned skill. So through time and experience, I've acquired some of that. Well, I'm not a stud at it. Like, I'm not great at it, but I enjoy it. I know what I like. If you gave me a table full of glasses of wine, I could probably pick out a few and tell you like what grape varietal it is. But I am far from a sommelier. Those people are like insane. And also, I don't have the time to drink that much to become an absolute genius at that craft. But no, we'll next, if and when we get to Oklahoma again, we'll have a wine night at the house, and I can walk you all through the collection here at the house.
As long as
Yes,
there's
I'm all
tequila.
for it. Jerry,
As long as there's
just make sure
tequila.
there's a whole lot of Bud Light in that cooler of yours, because Jerry ain't drinking wine. I'll drink his share though,
Or
gladly.
Bud Light, as it turns out. How many times you
I
drank
said
a
Bud
beer?
Light.
When have you seen me drink a Bud Light in your life? Come on.
Always, you always
Never.
drink a Bud Light.
Never had a Bud Light.
Bud, just a Bud?
No, Miller Lite and Coors Light.
Oh, well.
Coors.
well.
Coors, but it's yeah. I mean, I have so many ways we could go with the wine, because I was going to ask you your favorite wine movie.
I wanted to ask him that because I want to ask him that. What's
Okay,
his
you ask
favorite
him
wine?
that.
What's your favorite wine?
So I will answer it in a different way. If I had one last bottle of wine to drink, it would be Sassicaia, for a few reasons. One, it's phenomenal. Two, it's Italian, and it's in this area in Italy called Bulgari. And it's actually call it a Bordeaux blend. It's similar to what we in America drink from Napa. So it's not like Italian by nature, because most Italian wine, not most, like what people correlate Italian wine to is more of a Chianti or something of that nature. But it's different. It's Cabernet, Merlot, and just a Bordeaux blend. But part of like wine is almost like golf in ways. Like, what's your favorite golf course? Well, what's the best golf course versus your favorite? Your favorite, you probably correlate it to like the experience
Memories,
more
yeah.
so than the actual like technical parts of it. And while Sassicaia is one of the, still considered one of the great wines of the world, I first had it on my honeymoon with Allie, my wife, in Italy. And Italy is like one of my favorite places in the world. And it was the first time that I had this wine, and we were in Venice, like watching gondolas pass while we were eating pizza and fish and pasta. And I was just like, I just had one of my best finishes on the PGA Tour at the time. And I was just like 2 weeks before that. And I was like, I can afford this wine. This is great. Like, we're living it up. Like, it was just one of those moments that like you'll never forget. And the wine was great, and it made the wine that much more incredible than it probably was. So it was just, again, wine is about the experience. And it's, again, wine too is similar to golf. Like, I could go play an average golf course, but if the company is great and we got some good drinks flowing, we got a little gambling going, and a little bit of shit talking going, like, it just makes it that much better. We could go play an average golf course with my buddies, and it doesn't matter if it's average, we're still gonna have a great time. Wine's the same. Like, you have average wine, but if you got the right crowd around you, it's gonna be great wine. And so
Sassicaia takes you back to that day, that night, every time you taste it. Yeah.
Sassicaia is it. It's very, very fond memories. But Jerry, to answer your question, wine movie,
yeah,
and everyone needs to watch it. It's called Sour Grapes.
Yes.
Have you watched it too?
Yes, I have. I love wine, right? And by the way, you owe me a bottle of wine, but yes, I have watched Sour Grapes. It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
That
guy's
think I have,
genius,
but I don't
actually.
remember.
Genius.
Genius.
So Yeah, so Jerry's basically this guy that duped the whole wine world with his incredible taste, his incredible palate, and
Oh
his
yeah, yeah,
incredible
yeah,
knowledge.
yeah.
And he
I've
just
seen it. Yeah.
he frauded the wine world. Uh, it's unbelievable, especially if you kind of understand, like, again, the technical parts of wine and what makes a great wine and the history of wine and stuff. Like, it is so fascinating. And the guy is, like you said, Sue, like, he's a savant, and he duped the whole world, but he ended up getting caught. And if I remember correctly, he got caught because one guy had this unbelievable collection of wine, and part of his collection of wine was this Thomas Jefferson wine. So supposedly Thomas Jefferson owned this, allotment of wine that this guy ended up purchasing. And, it's this 200-year-old, wine that, former president of the United States, it was his favorite wine in the world. And I can't remember if it was like a Bordeaux or a Burgundy, but he bought this wine and ended up hiring these, like, experts and these private investigators, and found out through the Thomas Jefferson wine that this was fake. And then all of a sudden, the house of cards came crumbling. It's
Right, because he was doing it for a long, he was
fascinating.
doing it for a long time, and he was doing it in
Yeah,
his kitchen, and he was mixing wines, and he's like a guy that if you would have taken him to a blind testing for wine, he knew exactly what it was, what year it was, where it came from. He was just that good, and he's this young kid from Indonesia, right? And
yeah,
just like super talented
genius.
and just like genius, and he would mix
Yeah,
the wine and just basically make a copy
he
of
he put a little
that certain
graphite in
bottle.
there, a
Yeah.
little bit of red currants,
Tobacco.
some tobacco.
Little
He'd make it how
shit.
it should be. Yeah, correct.
It was directed by Larry David. I just looked up. No wonder it was a great movie.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
I
it's
didn't know that.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
wow,
it's really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
you need to
good.
watch it. It's good.
I like Sideways and Bottle Shock, two of my favorites in the wine
Yes.
movies. Yeah. Bottle Shock was great.
Yeah.
It was like the little guy who had nothing made it big, and the blind
Oh
tasting in
yeah.
France. Speaking of which, there was a time when you really couldn't afford nice bottles of wine. It wasn't that long ago. Now, this comes from our advanced research for tonight's interview, bringing in a lot of friends to help that you might actually know.
Let's just say the tequila shots were really good fun.
Yes,
Wherever we
yes.
were that one
I think
time.
we were in Bedminster or something. But anyway, so I might have got a few numbers from your team, and I was relayed a story. It was 7 years ago where you weren't rolling in the dough like you are now, because you made a lot of money last year, and you made a lot of money since you turned pro. I know golf's not all about the money, but it's a really nice perk to it. Have you actually considered driving an Uber for a while?
I did not consider driving Uber, but
Lyft.
nope. So I was playing Q school, and it was my second year of doing Q school, and it's second stage of Q school for at TPC Craig Ranch, and going into the final round. Let me give more context. First round, first year of doing Q school. In the second round at TPC Craig Ranch, I finished 19th in 18 players advanced. So I didn't miss by a shot. I missed by one spot. And so year two, back at it, I'd gone to PGA Tour Canada and that summer, and didn't play well enough to finish top five. I finished like 13th or something. And then on the season, and then I go to Q school again, back in the same spot, TPC Craig Ranch, second stage, going to the final round. I was, call it 12th place, and 19 players advanced that year. And through 3 or 4 holes, well, no, I remember specifically. So 1, 2, 3. So through 4 holes, I think it was 1 or 2 over par. And so I, for sure, am outside the number now to advance the final stage. And, I only have 14 holes left to get back in it. And as I'm leaving the 4th green headed to the 5th tee, which is a tee ball I am not comfortable with, sitting there, I'm like, well, you don't have any money. You're going to have to go get a job if you don't get your shit together. And that job is for whatever reason, it crossed my mind. I'm like, you're gonna have to go get a 9 to 5 at Best Buy. Like, you're gonna have to go grind your butt off, get an hourly wage at Best Buy. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but at that point in time, I was like, you're gonna have to go work at Best Buy. You're gonna have to go sell TVs to fund this dream of being a professional golfer. I'm sitting there, I'm just like, right after, because this was right after Jordan Spieth, who I grew up playing with, had like a breakout season in 2015 and played great. I'm sitting there watching a kid who I grew up playing with, like winning majors and crushing it. I'm sitting there, I'm like, and you're gonna have to go work at Best Buy. And fortunately, I ended up playing a nice last 14 holes. I shot 5 or 6 under or something like that, and ended up make it through second stage and made it through final stage and never looked back after that. But yes, to answer your question, Jerry, I thought I was going to have to get a job, not as an Uber driver, but at Best Buy.
Wow.
Well, you've come a long way since.
You've come a very long ways. Speaking of which, look, we're not all about the money and all that stuff. It's just what you did last year, this season, I should say last season. You had an incredible season. I mean, I had the privilege to walk a lot of those rounds with you and call some of your golf shots, and it was just it was certainly the best iron play I've ever seen, but what Jerry and I kind of want to know, more importantly, is not really what you're working on and all that stuff. We can leave that to next season.
Yeah.
I want to find out what you made a nice paycheck last year, right? So something like, what was it, Jerry, 30 plus? 30
It
plus
was
mil,
32
right?
with just his 3 wins and winning the league championship, and then plus all the other finishes. What is 35, 36 million? I know a guy who will know. I can text him right now. He handles your money.
No,
so.
right. But what 30, 35. I mean, who's
Yeah,
counting?
yeah.
What do you have in terms of, I mean, what are you planning to do with that? I know you have a foundation. I know you have a second kid coming. I know you guys just built a place in Oklahoma. What does one do with that stash?
Well, first off, Uncle Sam comes calling, and that's unfortunately the first person I have to deal with about this. But that is a great question. So I will say I did splurge, and I bought myself a nice car. I bought myself a Porsche 911 that I have wanted for a long time, and so I treated myself with that.
Perfect. That sounds like a
Okay.
blast.
Well, what else have you been doing? I mean, what else? I know you and Allie are waiting for your second baby to arrive. Congratulations. It's so fun. I think one of the nicest things, your girl is such a daddy's girl. And it's, as a parent, as both of us are parents, it's just so fun to watch that. And I know that's something that is the most important to you. I think it's always interesting because, like, I struggle with guilt. I don't know about you, but I struggle with guilt when I leave all the time. And just, it's difficult, it's difficult as a parent to be away. And so, a couple of things. I mean, has this format with LIV and the schedule enabled you to be a more present father and and do more things at home, but also what's fatherhood for you been like?
Yeah, I mean, it was without a doubt one of the things I weighed when making the decision to play LIV Golf is my priorities as a human and a father are going to always come ahead of my career in golf and all of that. And fortunately, I have a wife and a family that are extremely supportive. But it's I saw early in my career as a professional so many families that didn't get to spend as much time together and had missed birthdays and missed births and all this stuff. And it's like I I just so much value the time that I have, and I don't want to, like you said, I want to make the most of it and spend as much time as I can with my family. And so it's been super nice, in this kind of short off season we've had so far, to be able to be with them. And this morning, taking Collins, my daughter, to school, and every morning I've been, here at the house, I, take her, when I say school, she's, 3 years old, about to be
Like
3
a
years old,
nursery,
basically.
right?
Yeah. And but yeah, just being able to be as involved as possible is very important to me. And with another one on the way, it's something that fortunately I'm going to be able to be home for. The birth of our second child, and that's just, like I said, it's super important and something that I don't take for granted, for sure, because I've seen throughout this journey of professional golf, that isn't the norm, and it hasn't been the norm. And so I'm very grateful, and it's great to be home. And she's due about a week and a half before my Coba, and so I'll be able to spend some time. That is in hindsight, we can now kind of chuckle about it, because Collins, our daughter, was born July 7th, 2021, which was a Wednesday. And I left Sunday to go to the British Open. And I left about 2 hours before they were discharged from the hospital, because Collins, our daughter, had, like, her blood sugar was kind of fluctuating. And so they had to watch her in the NICU for 48 hours just to be careful, and everything was fine. But because of that, they didn't get to leave the hospital until, call it, noon on Sunday. And I had to leave about 10 a.m. because I had a flight at like 1 p.m. And so needless to say, it was one of the hardest flights that I've ever had to take in my life, was, leaving my wife and daughter that were still, in the hospital, to fly overseas. And it was like the first time in my life flying where I was like, if this thing goes down, I'm never going to be able to live with myself. Like, I've just left to go overseas, and I'm leaving my family back home just to play golf. And like, we have this new girl, and like, she might never know her dad. It was like one of those kind of dark moments where I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? And so, it's just the unfortunate reality of this life at times. So needless to say, I'm very happy that I don't have to play golf in January like I used to, and I don't have to choose between career and family. So I'm very, very thankful for that.
Well,
Yeah, that's certainly incredible. I want to ask real quick. I lost my train of thought.
you're allowed. It's I'm used to it.
I lost
You
my
do
train of
that
thought. Go ahead,
oftentimes.
Jerry.
You oftentimes do that on the air. Just saying. I was going to say something, because we got all serious here all of a sudden, and it's kind of a serious question, because the schedule.
Parenthood is like, dude, parenthood is fucking great. It's the best thing ever.
I'm a dad too. You forget? Remember? I've been through all
well,
this.
you are significantly
years
older.
ago. Fuck off.
Yeah.
But the schedule allows you. We even asked John Rahm about this when we interviewed him in the edition. We'll ask you about that in a minute, him joining LIV. But the schedule allows you time, a lot more time than any schedule you had before, trying to grind out a living to get to the PGA Tour or trying to succeed on the PGA Tour. You have 42 days of competition now outside of the majors that you play in and whatever else you play in. There's a Twitter account, Flushing It, who's kind of a LIV fan. He's got a little bit of a growing voice in the game, in the social space, as well as Victor Hovland had some comments as well. But we have seen some really outstanding play in traditional 4-round events on the DP World Tour by LIV Golf players. 5 wins in a row by Ustays and Burmester and Waco. Do you think that in some ways, regardless of what the pundits say, that the LIV Golf schedule makes it more possible to bring out the best in yourself? That there's a case study here that a rested golfer who, when they do plays against world-class competition, is better prepared for the other tournaments they play in?
Yeah, I mean, I think time will tell in this short span so far. I think that's where, the jury would side with you on that. I myself would agree with that. You know, I think it's very personal. You know, there's some people who have more success playing, 30 weeks a year, and some people who have more success playing, 18 weeks a year, 20 weeks a year, whatever it may be. But I think if you look at the history of golf, the best of the best players were very rarely playing 30 weeks a year. I think it just goes to show that, let's just, and this may be a bad example, but like, let's just use Tiger, for example. Like, he was as rested, if you will, as anyone for the biggest weeks of the year and for certain weeks of the year, right? And it's because his schedule, and part of it being because he played so great, it would allow him for it. Like, he was able to get dialed in. And that's the word I keep using with LIV, is like, it allows me to set not only a tournament schedule, but a practice schedule and a travel schedule that allows me to be more dialed in for the weeks that I am playing, as opposed to feeling like you're kind of like behind the eight ball, where you have to play more weeks. And there's some weeks where you're like, I don't have it this week, but let's just throw a dart at the board and see if we can hit this week. And so it's a little subjective, because I also think, like, the younger kids, the 20, 21, 22-year-old kids, I think need more repetition than someone who's 32, 34, 36 years old. But again, that's the beauty of LIV, is, you're not subjected to the 14 weeks a year that LIV is playing. You have the flexibility to go play wherever you want outside those 14 weeks. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm obviously biased for numerous of reasons, but I think there's no coincidence that LIV players have had immense success outside of LIV. And there's one correlation there, and that's the schedule has allowed them to be, whatever you call it, be more fresh, or be more dialed in, or less traveled, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, but also I think, just looking at the last 5-6 weeks on the DP World Tour, I think what's interesting is all these players are now, they have not just the time, but they have the energy, and they have the option to now go back to their respective countries or cities, right? To then go and support those events, the Sunshine Tour, and Waka going back to Chile and playing there, and and obviously he won in Australia, enabling him to possibly go and play those other events where they can grow the game of golf in their respective countries. I know you are, very involved with growing the game of golf in Oklahoma. And I think, would it be right to say that with you being on LIV, that's allowed you, not just from a financial standpoint, but also from a time standpoint and resource standpoint, to then help grow? Because I know you're very involved with the AJGA as well, aren't you? So, like, has that helped you grow the game, in Oklahoma?
Yeah, well, like you said, both, from a time and a financial perspective, like being able to help support, the Oklahoma Junior Golf Tour, the OJGT in Oklahoma, and bringing an AJGA event back to Oklahoma, being a part of both those things from a financial perspective. But from a time perspective, I was able to, the course I grew up on in Midwest City, Oklahoma, it was called John Conrad. And I was able to go back to one of the Oklahoma Junior Golf Tour events, OJGT events at John Conrad, the course I grew up on, and a junior golf tour in Oklahoma that our foundation has helped support. Being able to be there and on the grounds is important to me, because it's not just throwing money at the situation to help. It's like actually being there and meeting kids and getting to chat with them and talk to them about where they're going to college, or talk to them about the course I grew up on. You guys hit it so much further than I did, and blah blah blah, like all that stuff. Like, being there and being able to, time is the one thing we can't get back or get more of, and having that time to spend with the that next generation of golfers, it's just cool, and it's a way that I think giving back in that capacity is more impactful than just writing a check. And Patrick Reed, we talked about it, he's been a part of the AJGA hosting a tournament in Houston for years now, and he mentioned this last summer was the first time, and I want to say it was the first time ever that he was able to be there that week and be on grounds and just watch the kids and talk to the kids and be supportive of them there that week of the tournament, because he's always been on the road in the past, and this year allowed him that opportunity. So that's just super cool. And kind of back to your saying too, like it was so cool seeing Waco in Chile. Like obviously the game is not call it the most popular sport there, but you have one of the best golfers in the world that's from there. And it could be one of the most popular sports. I just I don't know, but point being, like the best golfer from there currently, and is probably going to go on to be the best golfer ever from there, is able to go back and play multiple tournaments in his home country. And just to show the support of that, like, again, it's not like he was playing for $20 million the weeks he was back there playing those tournaments. He was there because of the love of his home country and the love of golf and the love of wanting to support golf in his home country. It's so dang cool. And it's something that we're just seeing more of now than ever before, because of LIV and because of the changing of the changing of the guard of the sport in a way.
It is changing. The landscape is changing quickly, and we obviously nobody knows what the future holds. Not even those who are in charge of deciding that, I think, know right now what the future holds. But I think everybody with LIV is extremely optimistic, and I hope everybody with the PGA Tour is still optimistic.
Well, that was fun, Jerry.
Yes.
Shit, I love that guy. One of my favorite guys.
Hard not to like, except if you're from California.
Right. Anyways, thank you so much for joining us. That was our first half of our chat with Talor. You can look forward to the second part next week. Do subscribe, leave a comment or two, and you can find us wherever you get your podcast. And if you're keen to see us and watch Talor and look at a glimpse of his gym, well, you can catch our episodes on LIV Golf YouTube channel, or LIV Golf Plus, which is our streaming app. And yeah, we'll see you soon for part 2. In the meantime, happy holidays from Jerry and myself. Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas. Jerry, do you have any?
I look forward to the comments on the YouTube page, because I understand a few people, you have a few admirers out there. What'd they call you? A minx or something?
A minx.
Yeah, minx.
Curly, I think that was one of them.
Fantastic. Yeah, you're
all right, well, we'll see you soon.